So if you would like to hear part 2 from Neville, just give me a hell yeah. Hell yeah. Amazing. Okay, let's welcome back to the stage the man himself, Neville. Here he is, guys.
So part 2, this will be some of the ups and downs of what we've had. I won't go into too many gory details, but it's going to be interesting for people who advertise and who go on social media and advertise and things like that. So off we go. He says, I've got to switch this on first though, haven't I? Technical. So to improve your mental mindset and the ups and downs of business that everybody goes through, whether they like it or not, and if you are going to be the 1%, then you are going to have some ups and downs, and I'm here to say that you can get through them. And even though you get to a point where you think that that's it, you know, I might as well end my life, yeah, you can get through it. I just thinking, that just reminded me, that did, when I was 11 or 12, and I used to get beaten a lot of the time, and one Saturday I was going to get on a bus and I was going to town. I'd got an idea that I would go to the Wimpy on Cathedral Square, and I might find a girl, you know, to chat to. But the main thing was I was going to go and have a bowl of soup because they did nice soup there. And I got dressed up in my jacket, which was a school jacket, and I looked quite smart. Shoes were nice and clean, and I queued up at the bus stop just down the road, and there was a lot of people waiting for the bus, and the bus came along, and there was this big guy next to me. And in those days you have to put, I don't know what you do now, in those days you have to put your hand up if they wanted the bus to stop. So he put his hand up like that quick. I dropped to the floor and curled up. I thought he was going to hit me. That's how my life was then. I thought that he was going to beat me, a complete stranger, but that was my reaction. And I wanted to, not that particular day, but in that area of time, I wanted to commit suicide. And on a Friday night, I was all right. Saturday, I used to help the milkman. Sunday, I used to do things. But Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, I used to be ill. And I used to tell my mother that I was ill, so I didn't have to go to school the next day. And I used to bite my arms and say, a dog bit me, or something like that. You know, and my mother never believed me. You're lying, boy, you're lying. You just did that yourself. But that's how it was. And if the internet was about, I could have found a way to have committed suicide. But I wouldn't, if the internet was about, I couldn't read, could I? But then if I could read, I wouldn't be in that position. So what I'm just trying to explain is that if you do see young people acting a bit strange or some, you know, there's probably a reason behind it. But I wanted to die so badly, I did, because I hated going into the playground because, you know, anybody with glasses, anybody who couldn't read, they were set upon. And they would. And if the teachers set upon you, then they would. So anyway, I just thought of that. I don't know why, but yeah. The biggest recession in 100 years came along, 2008. Does anybody remember it? Yeah. It was like we was going along in a train 1,000 miles an hour, and it hit the barriers one day. And so you have to create innovation. And we now owed £14 million, which was no problem, as we were making 250,000 a month. Plus, we was making something like 2.5 to 3 million on the property business. So things were quite good, you know, and we was going to pay off the 14 million out of profits in no time. But the economy collapsed, and we had to innovate or go under. And by this time we had 125 staff, full-time staff, that was all relying on us. So things got rapidly went downhill, it did. And there was a lot of people. We had about 100 and some odd tenants in industrial property, shops, offices and warehouses, and a lot of them went bust. And we was making like £2.5 million out of that business, and we found all of a sudden we was £1 million light on the rents. Now, in the wisdom of the government, April came along and they put on rates on empty property. So we not only lost £1 million in rent, we ended up paying £1 million in rates, empty rates. So that devastated that company. We was making money, but not enough money to expand it. So that was one thing. And then the people was buying £1,799 prams every day, every hour of every day. We was getting a container in most weeks, and it was 23-week lead time. So we'd ordered for 23 weeks. Every week we'd order for the next 23rd week. We didn't want to stop that because it was in production, but they stopped selling. 399 prams started to sell. We'd only got 3 weeks supply of them because nobody bought them. So within 3 weeks they were out, and we'd got to keep going, so we had to subsidise the ones for £17.99 and bring them down to like 900 to keep the place going. And so this is the situation we had, and we were selling everything. We tried to remortgage bits and pieces or sell things. Nobody wanted to buy them. So I'd got a £3 million pension pot, and it looked like we was going to go bankrupt, and I could have run away, and a lot of people suggested let it go bankrupt and go. You got your £3 million, disappear. But that only lasted in our heads for like a second, because those people who got us into that position, 125 people there who got us into that position, built us up over that 30 odd years, were still there. A lot of them was there 20 years or more, and we couldn't run away. So I managed to convert the 3 million into cash legally, and I put that into the business, bearing in mind we was losing 250,000 a month on there, and then and that was going. And we still needed to get the technology going, because all the technology on our website, the 5th generation website, was all new, and we couldn't find people who was technical enough to hadn't done it before. It was all new, so we had subcontractors in, so we had to pay them to get it going, and they didn't know what they were doing either. So it was a bad situation. So here we are. We've got rid of the pension money. That's gone. I think I sold I had a motorhome that money lasted about 2 weeks, and I spent 2 hours a day in the accounts juggling money. There was too much day left after the money, and so that was a horrendous. I was living on scotch in those days. There was only one thing more that we had got some money in that we could sell, and that was our house, or Marilyn's house, because all of a sudden it became Marilyn's house, Marilyn's decision. So I went up to her one day and I said, Marilyn, wouldn't it be great if we saved £150 on petrol a week and had another 20 hours in the office to get over this problem? She said, what are you saying? I said, we need another couple of £1 million. Oh, and I'd already borrowed another couple of million, because one of our accountants one day paid 40 grand to somebody, as well as lots of other bills, but forgot there was a standing order for the rates for that building across the road for 40 grand a month. And that went through. We got a phone call from the bank. They said, you've just gone over by 40 grand. And that's fine until 5. And if you don't get the money in the bank before 5, we will close on you. So that was a hectic afternoon, and I borrowed another £2 million. And I did a deal with the bank that they had some land as collateral, and I convinced them that it was worth that amount of money. It wasn't, though. Anyway, they went ahead and did it. So the next day we paid off £2 million worth of more invoices. We knew the value that to pay your invoices, so that was £2 million more. And then I was saying we needed another 2 million. So I said to Marilyn, it'd be great. She said, what? I said, we sell your house. Now, she'd lived in this house for 26 years. We'd accumulated 26 years of really good stuff in there. And she said, but what do we do? I just said, we sell it. So the estate agent said it was worth 2.5 million 6 months before. It's worth 2.25 million now, and it was dropping like a stone. So the agent said, we'll put it on at 2.25. I said, no, we need it gone like next week. So they said, what about 2.1? I said, what about 1.75 million? And they go, you are mad. I go, but they didn't know the situation we were in. So we put it at 1.75. I said, I want the first person who walks in to buy. We had 5 people. 4 of them were nosy. No, 3 of them were nosy neighbours. One was wanting a care home, and it was big enough for a care home, but he wanted to pay nothing for it. And the other one said, I looked at this house for the last 30 years. My wife loves it, and they bought it. And they said, we've got to sell our own. And I go, well, okay. What? And by the way, I spent £5,000 on it the few days beforehand, because I put a new drive. Because when you're selling a house, your house is your picture and your garden is your frame. And we had 2 acres of landscape garden, but the driveway was shot, really, and I put a new driveway down, which cost £5,000, which I hadn't really got, to make the picture complete. So when the electric gates opened, somebody would go, wow, not what a shitty drive there is. So it's all to do with selling, marketing. Anyway, he said, I've got to put my house for sale. So I don't know how long that's going to take. So he phoned the next day. He said, I've got some good news and bad news. Go, what is it? Well, the good news is I put my house for sale last night, and the person who bought my old house has bought it. I said, that's good. What's the bad news? Well, the person who's bought it has already sold theirs. They've got to move out by Friday, and they was going into like, a hotel. But now he wants to come into my house. So he says, can you move by Friday? Yeah, let me think about it. Yes. We moved out of that house with our suitcases. We left everything in. It was like a hotel. We left 8,000 square foot of really, really good stuff in there. And when I told Marilyn that what we'd got to do, and we must do it to save the business, or it could still go downhill, but at least it was a chance. She just, with tears in her eyes, she just walked away from me. And I thought, yes, we've got it. Yeah, we can sell it. So she didn't argue. She didn't say no, let's say that. Yeah, so we moved, and we moved into our office across the road, and we was there for 2.5 years with one of our daughters who lived there with us. So what I'm saying is, when the shit hits the fan, be ready, because the people I bought the house of 26 years earlier, they had a similar situation in a recession in 1980 or 81, and they went bankrupt because they left it too late. You've got to look. You've always got to be looking in the future, and sometimes you have to take a knock, but it's better than going bankrupt. Yeah, so there we were with another 1.75 million in, the 2 million that I'd borrowed, again the 14 million pound we owed, and was losing 250,000 pound a month. So this is the stratosphere. I'll put this picture of the stratosphere because this is how I felt. And by the way, the 10 scariest rides in the world, the stratosphere has 4 of them. You used to have 5. You used to, I don't know whether you know what stratosphere is. It's a hotel. It's 114 floors high, and it looks like a water tower on the top. And hanging around this tower used to be a roller coaster, which was 2 floors. I was one of the last people to go on that roller coaster before they condemned it and said it wasn't safe, and they took it down. But I've been on the other 4, which are pretty scary, exhilarating. But when you're 114 floors up and you're looking down, because that picture there, that's like a grab, where you in the amusement park, but that grab works that way. We were sitting on there, and this grab goes out like that way, so you're down. You're looking at 114 floors, you're looking at ants on the floor, and they spin you around. And that is, that's scary. This one at the top, 200 foot, you shot up 200 foot in the air, and just for like a second, as that seat comes down, somebody knows, as that seat comes down, you think you're still going up because you're not sitting on the seat anymore. You're in midair, and planes go. You can see planes underneath you on that. So, and there's another one where you sit on. It's like a boat, and it's a pole, and the pole, you start going up the pole, and the boat sides come down, and you've got nothing to grab on to, and you go up and up and up, and it falls over the top, and you go sliding down, and you think you're going to go to the floor, and it stops a metre from the end. And they timed it right, because everybody thinks, oh, and then it goes down another metre, and you think it's broke. So that's how I felt, trying to run this business that was crumbling all around us. And we put everybody on 35 hours a week. That's the worst. That's the best we could do. I didn't want, because we'd got advisors in we'd got a financial director in that I employed for a few years, because Barclays said if you've got a big business like this, you've got to have a financial director. And I was paying him £1,000 a day, and he said, you've got to get rid of at least 20. Well, I couldn't. How can you? how can you choose 20 people? You can't. So Marilyn said no. So they all went down to 35 hours a week, but most of them come in for their 40 anyway, because that's the kind of people they were. So I was on alcohol, really, as a diet. So that's how things were. So we hit this recession head on, and within a few weeks we really realised that we've got to have a different system, and we couldn't go on the way we were, because everybody was beating the prices down to the bottom. So they were selling stuff for nothing. And some people, which are unscrupulous, were selling for less than the cost, and we used to tell people, you'll never get it, because they used to say, can you match the price? We go, no, they haven't got it. They'll never get it. They'll be bust before you, and you won't get your money back. But a lot of people was tricked into that. So we had to go out. We had to go and find our own goods, and we had to manufacture our own brand. And we had 3 brands, and we decided that we'd manufacture everything ourselves, as well as keep the normal stuff. And as soon as we started, within 3 months, the first shipments were in: prams, pushchairs, high chairs, cots, car seats. As soon as they were in, we put the normal stuff up to the recommended prices, and everybody else did. We hadn't got a chance of selling it because all of our stuff was cheaper, and nobody could compete with us, because you can't go on and go, oh, Baby Weavers, or another name what we'd got, Kitty Couture. There was no other brand. We was the only people with those brands. So, and we had them manufactured from the companies that we already dealt with, because these companies were desperate. So the people who were making the world's best car seat wasn't selling any. But they made ours exactly the same, but put a different cover on, and sold shed loads. So this was a win-win for both of us, this was. And people was going bankrupt every single day of the week in the nursery industry, and we started to boom. And then within a few weeks, we was back up to the £250,000 a month profit. So we'd turned that corner, but it was such a hell of a ride that it was just unbelievable. And without having the 5 of us, there was my wife, the 2 daughters, and my son-in-law, and then the rest of the people that we employed, we wouldn't have got through it. And so that was a ride of our lives. Now, one of the things that made it even worse was my son-in-law, whose ability is really great in creating stuff. He decided he wanted to go in for a competition. Well, we get these competitions everywhere, don't you? You get awards. That's what I mean, awards. So we went to this awards. I didn't go because I didn't know what was going on. But he went to this awards and put us in for the best retailer of the year and the best website of the year. Well, I knew it was best anyway, but nobody else knew, and we won because it was through customer reactions that had voted for us, and we won. The biggest problem with winning, they were so elated, they come home the next morning and go, we've won, we've got a trophy or whatever. And I go, shit, now we've put our heads over the parapet wall, everybody would know about us. Up to then, it was like, don't say anything about kiddie care, just keep quiet, because if they're not upsetting the trade. So out of the 150 suppliers, they all got a telephone call the next day from people saying, if you deal with them, we're not dealing with you. This is from the big companies, the Mothercares, your John Lewis, your, I don't know, the Halfords, Tesco's. None of them wanted us. But there was, out of the 150 people who supplied us, about 148 said, we're going to keep with you. Because we never know where we are with the others. They can drop us just like that, and you won't. And this comes back to having the reps on our side, because we entertained them, we took them out for dinner, they stopped in our house instead of a hotel, and so you do things years and years and years in advance, and if the shit hits the fan, you at least got somebody in that place holding you back. Yeah, so that was really good. So that went on for, that was a week of a nightmare. So I said, okay, those people, I didn't say people, I said those competitors, we'll go for all of them. We'll go for everything that's going. Every award that's going, we'll go for it. And we won the lot. And this was our marketing. We won everything. And this is through people voting for us. So, you know, social media is coming into our business then in 2008, 2009. And we won every award going for about 3 years. And along with that, we did something that most people wouldn't do. What else are the big people not doing? Boots and all these people, what they're not doing? Well, they're not advertising any nursery. Okay, so we had an opportunity, we had a phone call one day from an agent to say, do you know Katie Price? Well, she's done something quite controversial and upset a lot of people. And there was a company going to sponsor her, Stateside. I don't know whether you remember Stateside a few years ago, probably not, but there was, anyway, they pulled out. And the price they was paying for the advert was £700,000. And we go, oh, we can't do that. No, but it's going, and if you say yes, it's £170,000, and it's 2 weeks' time. And we hadn't got that money, 170, but we wanted it, and everybody wanted it. Everybody was going, yes, it's going to put us on the map, it's going to be, and go, yeah, 170. Anyway, started going down every day that come, going down. They'd got 3 days in which to do the advert and get it on Stateside. 3 days, I'll give you 70. They go, they took it. So a £700,000 advert we got for £70,000. So they went out, they got the actors, they did it in they did it in 3 days, and there we were. I don't know whether it's X Factor or no, it's Stateside. So we did Stateside for 6 weeks, and then we did X Factor, then we did Coronation Street, then we did Fern Cotton, was it? Loose Women or something, whatever. I don't know what it was. But we did it because the first advert on Stateside crashed the site. There was like hundreds of thousands of people, and we were off. We were putting value onto that business. So here we are, 34 fantastic years of kiddie care, and starting for Marilyn wanted a little bit extra pocket money to go in through all of these, so we went through the next one, which we sold for £100,000, and then we'd got the next one with all the flags. I upset loads of people having those flags. Then we built the next two, and the one in the middle at the bottom, their son-in-law realised that we was obviously going places, and he'd had enough working on his own in London, connecting computers up. He came full-time and took over that department, and we had 17 people working in that internet department. Yeah, so, and then on to the big one. Now, we'd got everything geared up for 200 million turnover. We were doing 40 million. How do we get out of the recession and get to the 200 million quick? Well, we looked at every business in the nursery industry, and none of them was any good to buy. So we'd been through a lot of trauma when we went and lived in the office. We had the local authority give us 21 days notice to get out. And I said to them, why don't you deal with the drug pushers that come down here every night behind Mercedes? And they said, that's nothing to do with us. We're on enforcement officers to get you out. I said, I'm trying to save 125 jobs. They couldn't give a toss. Anyway, a good friend of mine who was an estate agent, or a bit more than an estate agent, he fought it, and you can't, if you have to go through a car park, through a shop to get up to a flat or an office or whatever, and you live there, you can't rate it, and you can't rate it, you can't evict somebody. So there was some technical thing. We stayed there 2.5 years, we did, and then we had the environmental. They somebody had got it in for us, and the environmental people came round and said, "Are you recycling cardboard?" And I said, "I've recycled cardboard for the last 34 years. I'm meticulous about it. There's a 40-foot lorry goes every week. I've got the IPN numbers." And they go, "But what you didn't do, you didn't apply for an application form." You go, "What application?" So that will be 10,000 fine, and you didn't fill it in. So that's another 10,000 fine, and you didn't send it back, and we didn't approve it. So that's another 10,000. So I go, all right, well, if you want 30,000, I'll give you 30,000, but we've been, and they go, no, we're going to take you to court. And honestly, they took us to court, Peterborough Court. After a year, we employed 2 people because we'd got to go through all the 150 manufacturers over the last 6 years to see how much cardboard we had coming in, how much cardboard was going out. Because this is a law, when you do 2 tons of cardboard or more in your business, you've got to be registered. And we went, and there was 3 judges, and it was a nightmare. And I had a nervous breakdown in that court. And they went out for 40 minutes, and the person said, "Look, this is unheard of. There's 3 of them. They normally make a decision in 2 minutes." You know, and they come out after 40 minutes, and the judge said, "Well, you've done wrong. You should have known better." And they grilled one of my daughters, something dreadful about, if you've got a business, you should know what you're doing. You're responsible, and if you're irresponsible, not filling the forms in. And that's how they were. And they grilled it. It was terrible. And there I was sat there crying, and they kept saying, "Is there anything else that anybody wants to say?" And my lawyer, or the person was there, who'd come from London that morning, said, "Don't say anything. Shut your mouth." You know, and I wanted to tell them, you know, everything that had happened. Anyway, he did a good job in telling them. But they said, "Well, we've got to find you guilty because that's the law." And the thing is, we owed them £29,000, and I thought, oh shit, so it's £29,000 we owed them for the weight, and 29 or 30,000 because we hadn't filled the forms. That's 60-odd thousand. Where are we going to get that from? Because it was in the depth of despair when this was going on. And they said, we've got to find you guilty, but of course we don't feel you are. But we've got to hold up the law. But we're in disagreement with it. Because you've already done this. You employ 125 people. You've been in this town for 30-odd years. We know you. But you broke the law by not filling the form in. And he went on and on, as though he was feeling really guilty. And he said, "So we've decided to fine you for your misdemeanour, £2,000 on each count. So £6,000. God, 6,000, that's only now 36,000 instead of 60. And he said, so that's it, 6,000. And the person in the opposition, their lawyer, got up and said, "They still owe 30,000. And he goes, "No, I've found them guilty." They don't owe you that anymore. I go, what? So they've done this to whatever they did it, because I offered them the 30,000 in the first place, and they did it and they got nothing for it. But my wife wouldn't go to the court because they said you can choose out of the 5 of you who's going to go into court, because she'd have rather committed suicide because she'd not done a thing wrong in her life. So that's how these things happen. So you've got to have a tough team. You've got to have a team about you that can deal with these things. So that was one of the things. I wasn't going to talk about that at all. I wasn't. So God, I just anyway. What I was saying, we was hunting for acquisition. And then I couldn't find one, and we'd been through, that's why I told you about this, because we'd been through that crap, and it damaged us mentally, physically, and we've been through all that crap, and we couldn't do it anymore. So we said, if we're going to build another team to get us up to 200 million, it's going to take another 2 or 3 years to get a team together, because when you grow in a business, you get a team, and then you grow into the next 20 to 30 million, then some of the team leaves because they don't want to go and do it anymore, and we'd got to do that. And one day I decided we would become the hunted instead of the hunter. And a guy rang me who's been ringing me for years and years and years, saying, I want to sell your business, I've got a buyer. And I was really ill that day, and I thought, I was nice. What are you doing? How's it going? I said, yeah, everything's all right. What are you doing for Christmas? Where are you taking your family and all that kind of, and I kept thinking, I wish you'd fuck off, because I really feel, and I've heard it for 8 years or whatever. And he said, and don't forget, if you ever decide to sell your business, I've got a buyer. I go, I've got a buyer. I'm going to sell it. Silence. And he goes, what did you say, Neville? I said, I'm going to sell it. I decided that second, I'm going to sell it. And I wouldn't ask Marilyn, because she couldn't make that decision. And she was, she's got problems anyway with what's gone on. She couldn't make that decision. And he came down. The next day, we filled the forms in, put it on the market, and within 3 weeks, I spent £30,000 on our own due diligence, which he advised, which was right. And it's a good job then we had a CEO, because he could do all that, and my son-in-law could do all that, and there was in there an element in preparing everything like that. I didn't want to know. I just kept thinking, I hope they find something in the due diligence that nobody will want to buy it. That's how I felt, because it was our life. And people used to say, oh, if you sell this, you'll be like selling your baby. And I used to go, for years and years, oh, no, it doesn't affect us. This is just a box shifting exercise. It doesn't matter whether it's nursery or what it is. But I tell you what, it hits you like a ton of bricks when you know you're going to sell. And we was in a state for weeks. Anyway, we had 30 people interested in us, and we whittled it down over a few weeks to 7, who was all basically the same, 70 million. Christmas come along, and there was people virtually camped out wanting an answer. Will you sell it? Will you sell it? And we made that decision on the 29th of January 2011 that we would sell to Morrison's, and by the 14th of February, 70 million in cash was in our bank, and they wanted me and Marilyn to go. They give us 30 days to get out, and they said to everybody, nobody speak to them. It was a family business, and we spoke to everybody. We wasn't even registered as a limited company. They'd never bought a mum and dad business before. So they said Kiddie Care Limited, and go, no, He said, it's a partnership. And they go, oh, I've never bought that before. No, we've got to buy a limited company. So they had to make it limited, and they called it Greyco Limited, for 6 hours before they could pay the money over. Yeah. So where was I? We gave everybody a bonus that day, and we never went in because everybody was crying. And where was I? I was with my lads down some main drains. We were jetting some main drains in one of our units. We've got 13 units, and this guy, he come out. One of our tenants come out and looked over the barriers. He go, "What's going on?" This is 8 o'clock in the morning, and I looked up. I got my hard hat and glasses, and I was covered in muck. Not shit, because it was like it wasn't a drain like that. It was just a not a foul drain. It was a water drain, and I said, "Oh, we're just doing the maintenance, mate." And he looks over and he goes, "So you, Neville?" I go, "Yes, mate, how you doing?" He goes, "I just heard in news that you just sold your business, 70 million. What the are you doing down the drains?" And it's like, all your friends, it's like a plane crash. You know, all your friends had died. Everybody we knew, all the reps, all the people who worked for us, everybody connected to the business had gone. You know, because everybody had to carry on with their own life, and we was out of it. So the biggest party would be going on, what we started, but we were not invited to it. So that really, really hurt, and it hurt for weeks. And we bought one of these units just down. We still got it down the road here, and we were shoveling bits of paper from the past that meant nothing to us. What for? Put it into files that mean nothing in the future. And then after a few weeks, I remember Reginald Perrin saying, "I didn't get where I am today, CJ, by being down, because I was really down." And at that minute, I perked myself up and said, "Right, we're going again. We're not in retail, but we'll go into other things." So we went into. That's, by the way, that's a record. 70 million is a world record for mum and dad nursery business. Yeah. So what we're going on to now? So was it retire? Everybody thought it was going to retire, but I wasn't going to retire because I'd already retired when I was 24. Because everybody I speak to, and they go, "Why are you not retired?" I go, "What is retirement? Doing what you want to do when you want to do it." I've done that since I was 24. So that retirement was out of the picture. And the question is, how long are you going to last? You know, if you last to 100, you've got 36,000 days. I think we'd had about 27,000 days out of our life, and now 13 years on, I've got about 2,100 days left if I live to 80. So there's all this going through your mind of how long you've got to live. And when I realised how long it was that we've got to live, and now what we did in the previous life, I realised I could make another business and sell it, and make another business and sell it. Yeah. So I brainwashed myself right from 1974. I brainwashed myself to become a millionaire. I brainwashed myself on the journey that starts in your mind. So whatever it is, a lot of people are afraid of things like this, but it's all in your mind and you can do it. So once you have decided what you want, get on and do it. Anything you are capable of doing every single minute. Break it down into months, weeks, days, hours, and in our time it's minutes as well. We set our goals, we set our mind, and we set our thinking to become wealthy. That was from 1974. So set your goals. Set your goals today for your 20, 30, 40, and even 50 years. We've now been in business for 50 years. I'd like it to go on for another 50. Now, some things, this is going on to the property business that we're doing at the moment. Some things are too good to be true. So when there is a recession, like these people who build these buildings, 135,000 square foot, they do them all over the country. Well, they made a mistake with this one because the recession started before they'd finished it. So this was up for £11 million, went into recession, and we ended up buying it for £4.5 million because they wouldn't reduce the price. They kept saying we're going to get £8 a square foot for rent. I was happy with £2.95 for the first year. So, you know, they was having difficulty. But I rented it the next day at £2.95. So I had no voids in that. And we got our money back in rent, and we sold it for 9.75 million. So these are the things you can do. Remember, we started with 37 pence. We started with the terraced houses. We're doing it, and this is what you get up to. Marble Properties, again, it's not a limited company. It's 50 years this year. So in 2000, to give you an example, in 2000, we were just going from the small sheds to the bigger ones. This was 3 million. I had 250,000 in cash. I wanted 2.75 from Barclays, and they said, no, we'll give you 2 million, because they wasn't used to giving us that amount of money. So I rang my broker, and I said, I want to remortgage my house for 750,000. So that's what he did. So never be afraid of using your assets. So with that, I've got 3 million then. 18 months later, we'd made 200,000 on the rent. We'd also paid the 2 million, the interest for the 2 million. I paid my 750,000 mortgage. So I'd still made 200,000. And then somebody come along and said, do you want to sell that? I said, how much would you give us? And they said, 4.5 million cash, and we'll do it in a month. So we made 1.7 million in that 18 months. Oh, and then I bought it back again, because they spent 250,000 on the roof and sold it back to us a couple of years later and less. And then we rented it for 10 years and got 4 million in rent, and then we sold it for 5.5 million. So that was not a bad deal. So in July of 14, Morrison's were struggling. They'd lost £176 million. They had opened 10 other stores as big as that. I mean, the store was 50,000 square foot, but we've got 265,000 square foot in there of subsidiary things like picking and packing and warehousing. But they opened 10 of them. There was no way. We knew on the first one, we knew within a minute that they'd never ever make any money, because if the people lined up all the way down the street, they'd never make any money. Their overheads were 2 million, they'd got 115 staff, and they've got 3 fucking tills. 3 tills, you know, you cannot, if the line is 8 hours deep, you will never take that amount of money to pay for that overhead. It was a no-brainer. None of those shops were going to make any money at all. They bought them from Carphone Warehouse, they did. Which was sad. They ended up selling it to Endless, a company. So they sold it for £2 million with a £16 million building and a £20 million worth of stock. That's how, and we could have took it, well, we could have helped them. I could have made it into profit in a week. I could have done. And they hadn't got a clue. And they wouldn't sell it back to us. The agent said they'd be too embarrassed. Yeah. So I was willing to give them 30, so Endless wanted to sell it to us minus the 20 million in stock. They wanted to sell us back 50 million. I said, how do you get that price? You just bought it for 2 million, I'll give you 4. And they go, no, we've got 500,000 email addresses. I go, well, big deal. What's that? Why are you telling me that? They're all customers. I go, we're not selling baked beans. It's not Morrison's. The customer comes on the first baby, spends 4 grand, comes on the second one, spends 1.5 grand, and that's it. You don't see him anymore. Okay, so I've got 5 minutes. I waffled on because I thought there was loads of. Well, I didn't, not because. Anyway, Highly Estates. Highly Estates. We started a new company called Highly Estates, built 600 houses in that from 2011, and I put 9 million into that for a start, and then we sold it in 2018. Really lovely houses. I'll just go through these quick. This building is just at the top of the road here. We built that in 2012. As you go out of this, there's 350 people work there, and that's our first BREEAM Excellent building in Peterborough. And that, you can see that, and they give us about 500,000 rent a year. 2013, we did loads of stuff, but this is just kind of, we bought a marina, and we got planning permission for 60 houses and loads of other stuff, but I'm not, even though we've started it, we've put some concrete in the ground, we've got 135,000 square foot of industrial, we've got tenants in. So I'm not going to kick those tenants out just because I want to build a few houses. So 2014, remember this is our new life. We're buying and selling businesses now. You know, so 2014, the government changed its mind, and you could make apartments out of offices. So that went well. Then we decided we'd start building from scratch apartments. That went well. I've still got those. 2019, just down the road, Starbucks and 3 other offices. Nothing had been built for 12 years in and around Peterborough like this. 2 years, and nothing's been built since. So there's windows of opportunity. So we've got 3 lovely offices were built for people, and Handelsbank and Sop and Sop, and I see an automation place from Switzerland. I never knew what that was. Yeah, so there we are. This is my sense of humour. 2020, nobody was on the roads except Marilyn and I, because we bought a van because I got 140 tenants who had abandoned their businesses. But the people who didn't abandon their business was the people who were thieving. They kept on. So we started going round every day. I like this, Tonto. The suggestion was a mask. Why are they wearing gags? You know, and it's it's a bit controversial. So in that time we was going round, there was no cars. We was picking up properties, building sites we were picking up. So we were waiting for the lockdown to come out, and we could start again. So we was buying sites in 20, 21, 22, going in for planning permission. By 22, we've got 85 million under construction. I'm doing this pretty quick because we've only got 2 minutes left, haven't we? So we're doing a 15 barn conversion only because one of my son-in-law likes barns for some reason. And we, at the same time, we got permission for 100 plots for new houses, and we sold that onto Belford BT because he didn't want to do it. 23, at the end of 23, this come up for sale. 50,000 square foot office. 1,200 people work there, really AAA covenant, really good. They've just spent £5 million on refurbishing the inside. They've got scaffolding up on the outside now, they're refurbishing that. And they're a really, really fantastic tenant. I picked that up for half price. So this, identifying long and short-term opportunities. We've just bought that piece of land. We're going to put 260,000 foot shed on it for one person. So, and we've built up to now, in the last 50 years, 2 million square foot. So that's not bad. These are my mentors. That everybody should have mentors. And these, for the last 50 years, my dad taught me to say, or not to say, I should have. Look, my dad's with me today. This is his shaving mirror. This is his dog tags. Now, I'd rather be beaten every bloody day and have 2 dog tags come back than 1. So, yeah, so that's special. Albert Johnson, you know, he taught me to focus, consistency. What's that word? he was meticulous. He's a bastard sometimes with me, making him go and do things over and over and over again. Yeah, so he had pride. He'd given me pride, and he knew how to have a harmonious life. Cyril, met him in 1977. I saw him the other week. I went to London and saw him. He's 98. He was my mentor for years and years and years. Yeah. Zig Ziglar, everybody knows. I had him in my car for 30 years. I spoke to his wife. I said, if Zig ever gets a sore throat, I'll come and do it, because I knew from word for word. Muhammad Ali, I remember when he was a world champion boxer, he said in an interviewer said, Ali, if you wasn't the world champion boxer, what could you do? What would you? He said, I could be anything. Now he was talking to me. He said, I could be a garbage collector. He resonated with me. I could be a garbage collector, he said, and I would collect more garbage cans than anybody in the world, and I would do it before they got out of bed. So, that's a thing. And Arthur died at the end there. I met him when I was 13. He'd just got a new Land Rover. I'd never been in a new car before. I wanted a new Land Rover. And my mother and father, the night before, because we were stopping around his house on holiday, and the night before had said, I don't know how Arthur can afford that. So I said, how can you afford that, Arthur? I was 13. I'd never spoke to anybody like that ever before. How can you afford that, Arthur? And he said to me, looking at my mum and dad, Neville, he said, in life, apart from working hard, you have to speculate to accumulate. And I thought, I want one of those Land Rovers. But what does he mean? What does he mean, speculate to accumulate? And of course, speculate your time, speculate your money, and effort. I didn't know that for years and years and years what he meant. But he wasn't afraid of anything. He had lots of businesses, and he wasn't afraid. So, what else have we got? Yeah, so action. Well, take action every day. Without action, there is nothing. All the talking, or the reading, or the planning come to nothing if it's not followed by action. When should you take action? When should it take place? In our case, we took action to become wealthy, and immediately after the thaw. So throughout history, and this is good because I know this is totally right. Throughout history, winners have stood out and become successful by taking action. Having others be with open mouths saying, what the heck just happened? Because so many times I've bought somewhere and I've had somebody say, I could have had that. No, you couldn't. No, I could. Well, how could you? Because it's mine. No, well, I've got the cash. Well, you couldn't have it, could you? And they go, why? I said, because I bought it. And they go, yeah, because you got there before me. Early bird catches the worm. If you're going to be in bed half the day, then the estate agent is going to sell it to the first person. So I know they look at it and go, what happened? I wanted that place. Yeah, didn't get it, did you? So every time I read a book, have a meeting, take a course, get an idea, and then I implement it by action. When? Now. This is right. This is why I do this. Don't go to your grave with your songs left in you. Somebody told me that years and years ago. If you learn something, all right, when you're in business, you don't tell everybody everything. You keep all your secret stuff because you want to be successful. So you don't tell anybody. When you get to my age and you've got less time than you've had and you don't know what day you're going to go, you don't want to leave with all your songs left in you. In other words, I want to tell you my success, how I did it, so you can do it, so you can shortcut. If any way possible, you can shortcut, and that's why I do it. Because people go, why do you do that? You don't have to. No, I do have to. Because one day, when one of you is standing up in 20 years' time or 10 years' time, whatever, and they'll go, 4th of June? Yeah, 4th of June 2024, I saw a guy on stage and he said something to me, and that made a difference to my life. And that is a great thing. I'll be dead by the time one of you say that. Hopefully you'll say that. But that is why I do it, because I want to inspire. So be serious about your business at all times, but never take yourself too seriously. Yeah, from a boy that wanted to be a comedian. I still do. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to me. Oh, I do appreciate that. That's really something. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah.
I just wanted to